6. Philippine Democracy and the Constitution. Goals of Filipino people in adopting the Constitution. Article 2, Section 1. The Philippines is a democratic and a republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all the government authority emanates from them. The Philippines is a democratic and republican state. The state above the declaration is a restatement of the democratic character of our government. A republican government is a democratic government by the representative chosen by the people at large. The essence, therefore, of a republican state is indirect rule. The people have established the government to govern themselves. Its officers from the highest to the lowest are servants of the people. The principles and policies as enumerated in Article 2 encompasses the values and aspirations of the Filipino people. They provide fundamental guidelines which the government is committed to observe in the conduct of public affairs, specifically in the enactment of laws by Congress, the enforcement by the executive branch, and the determination of the validity of statuses and executive acts by the courts in cases of controversies brought before them. A democracy has been described as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The people must have some degree of education or instruction, for indeed, such a government run by ignorant, uneducated people will simply not work. The Philippines renounces war as an instrument of national policy, adopts the generally accepted principles of international law as part of the law of the land, and adheres to the policy of peace, equality, and justice. Right of the people to revolt. Section 1. Above implied he recognizes as the people of the ultimate judges of their destiny, can resort to revolution as a matter of right. A provision in the Constitution, however, expressly recognizing the people's right to revolt against an oppressive or tyrannical government is not necessary and proper. Yet, it is so important a document with which every citizen should be familiar, as it directly and constantly touches every aspect of his everyday life, indeed to be respected, obeyed, and defended. If our nation must grow and survive, this is the reason for the requirement that all educational institutions shall include the study of the Constitution as part of the curricula. The Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution is the Bill of Rights. It establishes the relationship of the individual to the state and defines the rights of the individual by limiting the lawful powers of the state. It is one of the most important political achievements of the Filipinos. An overview of the constitutional principles and state policies. Article 2 of the Philippine Constitution, or the Declaration of Principles and State Policies. This article provides fundamental guidelines which the government is committed to observe in the conduct of public affairs. The country is a democratic country, therefore it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The constitutional principles and state policies was ratified on February 2, 1897. The article has 28 sections. The section 1 to 6 are the Declaration of Principles, and the section 7 to 28 are the state policies. The first part enumerates the principles of the state, such as section 1, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people. Section 2. The Philippine renounces war as an instrument of national policy. Section 3 states that the civilian authority is at all times supreme over the military. Supremacy of civilian authority over the military is present in a republican state of government. Section 4. The prime duty of the government is to serve and protect the people. Government exists for the people and not the people for government. Section 5. Promotion of the general welfare, maintenance of peace and order, and the protection of life, liberty, and property. Section 6. The separation of church and state shall be inviolable. The second part stipulates the state policies. For more information about this part, stay tuned because it will be discussed in the last part of the video. Basic Constitutional Principles.
Section 1. Guiding Principles and Policies in Government. Government power shall be exercised in accordance with the following basic principles and policies. Number 1 states that the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. To understand this clause, let's define the words democracy and republic. Democracy comes from a Greek word demos, which means people, and kratos, which means rule. Therefore, democracy is a government that is run by the people. On the other hand, republic comes from a Greek word politeia, which means the right of the citizens. A republic is a government system in which the power rests with the nation's citizens. Under the system, people can choose leaders to represent them and make the laws. So what's the difference between a democracy and a republic? The major difference between a republic and a democracy is that a republic is a form of government, whereas a democracy is an ideology that shapes how a government is run. The present political system of the Philippines is a democratic republic. Democratic because the sovereignty or the supreme power to govern resides in the entire Filipino people. The Filipino people has the right to choose the government they want, define the powers it shall hold and exercise, and to abolish it any time and form a new one. However, if all Filipino would act as leaders, the country would be in chaos. So the Philippines adopted a republic form of government in which the power to govern the country is given to the elected officials who will represent the will of the Filipino people. The elected officials can only exercise the powers delegated to them by the Filipino people, who are still the ultimate source of political power and authority. Moving on to number 2. It states that the state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. Any torture against human being is constitutionally prohibited. The Constitution also set up the Commission on Human Rights that will investigate the violation of human rights and adopt or take the appropriate measures to protect the rights of every human being. The basis of human rights is believing in inherent dignity of every human person, that human person is a being and not a thing. In a democratic state, the individual enjoys certain rights which cannot be modified or taken away by the law-making body. Number 3. The supremacy of civilian authority. The Constitution states that the civilian authority is at all times supreme over the military. Civilian authority simply means the supremacy of law, because the authority under a constitutional system can only come from the law. The President of the Republic of the Philippines is the head of the civilian government and at the same time, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The AFP is the protector of the people and the state. It cannot be the suppressor of the liberties of the people. Number 4. The state shall ensure the autonomy of local governments. The Constitution of the Philippines recognizes the importance of local governments. It provides them local autonomy. To understand local autonomy, let's define the word autonomy. It comes from the Greek words auto, which means self, and nomos, which means law. When combined, it means to live under one's own laws. Therefore, local autonomy is the ability of local governments to set up their own rules in order to have an independent impact on the well-being of their citizens. Local affairs can best be regulated by the people in the locality. Number 5. The territorial and political subdivisions of the Republic of the Philippines are the provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays. There shall be autonomous regions in accordance with the Constitution in Muslim Mindanao and the Cordilleras as may be provided by law. Number 7. The right of the people and their organizations to effective and reasonable participation of all levels of social, political, and economic decision-making shall not be abridged. The state shall, and by law, facilitate the establishment of adequate consultation mechanisms. Number 7 is all about the right to balance and healthful ecology. The need for a program to address the ecological problem of pollution, waste disposal, forest drought, dying riverbeds, destruction of waterways, and to protect human life. Number 8. The powers expressly vested in any branch of the government shall not be exercised by, nor delegated to, any branch of the government except to the extent authorized by the Constitution.
State policies. Section 7. The pursuit of an independent foreign policy. Foreign policy is also called international relations policy, the set of goals about how the country will work with other countries, economically, politically, socially, and militarily. An independent foreign policy simply means that there is no other state that can dictate how the Philippines behave in other states. No other country should be able to boss us around when it comes to how we deal with other countries. The President acts as the chief foreign policy implementer in the Department of Foreign Affairs. The DFA is responsible for the state's foreign policy. Section 8. Freedom from nuclear weapons. The aim of this section is to prevent the storing, manufacturing, and protecting nuclear weapons in our country. However, it does not prohibit the use of nuclear power for medicine, agriculture, and other benefits. Also, if the national interest requires, the storing will be permitted. So let's define national interest. National interest is a public declaration of country's needs and intentions based on assessment of the current situation. So if the Philippine government thinks that it is good to the country, the storing of nuclear weapons may be permitted. Section 9. The promotion of a just and dynamic social order. The state shall promote a just and dynamic social order that shall ensure the prosperity and independence of nation, and at the same time, free the people from poverty. This objective can only be achieved by the following policies that will first promote full employment, second, a rising standard of living, third, an improved quality of life for all, and fourth, the sufficient service in the fields of health, education, housing, and a lot more. So let's move on to Section 10, the promotion of social justice in all phases of national development. Social justice is equal access to health, opportunities, and privileges within society. The state is mandated to give preferential attention to welfare of the less fortunate members of the country, specifically the following people. First, the poor. Second, the underprivileged. Third, the uneducated. Fourth, the disabled. Section 11. The promotion of human rights. The states value the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. And torture against a human being is constitutionally prohibited. The Constitution also said that the Commission of Human Rights will be the one that investigates and will know the correct measures and will protect human beings. Moving on to Section 12, Family as a Basic Social Institution. It is the duty of the state to protect and strengthen the family as a basic autonomous social institution, and shall equally protect the life of the mother and the life of the unborn child. Under this provision, the government cannot interfere involving the matters of family nor pass laws which may connect as a social witness. This is also the reason why abortion is considered illegal to our country. If we legalize abortion, this would violate the laws. However, if the life of the mother is in danger, the life of the unborn child may be sacrificed, and this cannot be considered as abortion. Section 13. The role of youth is also vital to nation building. As stated in Section 13, the state shall protect their physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, and social well-being. Today's youth is more knowledgeable and intelligent mainly due to easier access to information, particularly in television, cell phones, and in other forms of technology. Today's youth is considered tomorrow's leaders. Why, you may ask? It is because young people have a sense of responsibility for a countless welfare which molds them to effective players to build a modern Filipino. Section 14. Just like the youth, women have also a big role in nation building. The state shall recognize the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of men and women. History shows that women have proven their power in all fields of human endeavor, may it be in profession, business, or arts. The state shall expand women's participation in productive activities. Filipino women played and continue to play the task of nation building, which should uphold the equality of men and women in employment, property, and many more. Section 15 states that the state is obliged to promote and protect the right of people to health by instilling health consciousness among the people. Section 16 states that the state shall protect and advance the right of people to a balanced and healthful ecology in accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature. Ecology is a branch of science that deals with the study of the interrelationship of living things. A strong, vigorous economy and a healthy, sustainable environment can go hand in hand. Section 17. The state shall give priority to education, science, technology, arts, culture, and sports in order to achieve the following goals. First, foster patriotism and nationalism. Second, accelerate social progress. Third, promote total human liberation and development. The authors of this Constitution strongly believe that a human being must be liberated from illiteracy, self-centered desires, colonial mentality, bad habits, and other negative attitudes. Section 18. Labor is considered as primary social-economic force. The statement protects the right of the workers and promotes their welfare. The state must also see to it that all labor laws are fair and faithfully enforced. Section 19. The pursuit of self-reliant and independent national economy. Independent national economy is an economy which is free from dependence from other countries. In order to build an independent national economy, it is essential to adhere to the principles of a self-reliant economy or the state that requiring any aid, support, interaction, or trade with the outside world. A self-sufficient economy does not trade with other countries because it can produce its own goods, services, using its own natural resources, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and efforts of its own people. Section 20. The Constitution recognizes the importance of private sectors for the improvement of the country. The state is commanded to encourage free enterprise, give incentives to those who want to invest in the country. Section 21. The Constitution mandates the state to promote comprehensive rural development and agrarian reform because this is very significant to the economy of our country. More than a half of population is employed in agricultural sector. Reforms are important because they protect the rights of the farmers. Section 22. The right of indigenous cultural minorities must be recognized. Indigenous cultural minorities are those non-dominant groups having their own religion, ethnic or linguistic traditions that are different from the rest of the population. The existence of these various cultural groups make it necessary for the government to adopt certain provisions which promotes unity and development. Moving on to Section 23, the promotion of NGOs and POs. The state shall recognize non-governmental community-based or sectoral organization. The Philippines is one of the countries with largest and most dynamic NGOs and POs. First, let's differentiate NGO and PO. NGO stands for non-governmental organizations. These are the voluntary groups of individual or organizations that are not affiliated with the government. They are formed to provide services or to advocate public policy. An example of this is Philippine Red Cross. On the other hand, people of organization or POs are members of the community who are organized to respond to their common interests most of the time. The members of these organizations are from the same locality. Examples of this are the neighborhood associations and women credit associations. The state is required to encourage this organization because in recent events, have shown that they help promote the welfare of the people and an active contributor to the political, social, and economic growth of the country. Section 24 is about the role of communication and information. The role of communication and information is for the first time given a constitutional recognition because a balanced flow of information and communication is vital to the national progress, whether an effective communication and information is an imperative necessity. Section 25, the autonomy of local government. The Constitution of the Philippines recognizes the importance of local government. It provides them local autonomy. To understand local autonomy, let's define it first. It comes from the Greek word auto, which means self, and homos, which means law. When combined, it means live under one's own law. Therefore, local autonomy is the ability of local government to set up their own rules in order to have an indifferent impact on the well-being of their state affairs. Section 26. The prohibition of political dynasties. Political dynasty is a succession of rulers from the same family or line. The Constitution strongly prohibits political dynasties because it often results to graft and corruption. Equal opportunities must be followed from appointments to designation in public affairs. Such appointment must be based on merits. Section 27. Honesty and integrity in public office. The state must maintain honesty and integrity in public offices. A government office is a public trust. It must not be degraded. Unfortunately, our government officers have always suffered from bad image. Thus, the state is mandated to take positive and effective measures against graft and corruption. Section 28. The policy of full public disclosure. This provision promotes the right of the people to know any transaction entered by the government. This policy covers the utilization of public funds and property so that the people would know where does it go. However, it does not include